Everybody's back in, is that correct? Great. So welcome back, everybody. That was a short hour, right? We are now at resolution 2021-0301 Grand Park Drive Improvement Agreement.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Ron.
By way of background, this relates to the settlement agreement that was reached in the litigation between Winter Park and Cornerstone relating to the underpass funding. Some of you may be aware there was originally an agreement whereby the town of Winter Park agreed to contribute to the funding of the underpass. There was a dispute over a number of years about whether they were going to pay that or not. It ended up in litigation, and eventually about a year ago, there was a settlement agreement reached. And to make a long story short, the basic premise of that settlement agreement is that Cornerstone is going to construct a so-called loop road from the west side of King's Crossing around through the underpass and to the east side of the crossing, so that people in Winter Park have an alternative access when the King's Crossing at grade railroad crossing is closed eventually. And to make that happen, Cornerstone agreed to pay a certain amount. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was over $1 million toward the cost of constructing these roadways. And Cornerstone, Grand Park, basically Cornerstone agreed to construct. There's basically 3 segments to this roadway, loop roadway. The King's Crossing Extension Road is primarily in Winter Park. It runs from, again, the east side, or excuse me, the west side of the King's Crossing interchange down to where it intersects Grand Park Drive and Fraser. And then Grand Park Drive runs in a generally northeasterly direction to a roundabout. And from there, Old Victory Road is to be constructed from that roundabout to King's Crossing Road to complete the loop. The improvement agreement that you have before you relates to the Grand Park Drive segment of that loop road. The King's Crossing extension is an agreement between Winter Park and Cornerstone. Fraser really has no involvement in that section. It's being constructed according to Winter Park standards, and Winter Park will eventually be responsible for that section. On the Grand Park Drive section, because it's within the town of Fraser, we are involved, and we wanted to make sure that that roadway was constructed according to town standards and in accordance with town's requirements. So one of the provisions in the settlement agreement was that Cornerstone would execute an improvement agreement for that segment of Grand Park Drive. There is no surety involved because Winter Park is holding in escrow the funds that are due to Cornerstone under the settlement agreement, and Cornerstone will not get those funds until these roadways are completed. So that's basically the same as surety for the construction of this roadway. On the other hand, we do include in that agreement the standard provisions that are in your subdivision improvement agreement for compliance with your road standards, requiring a process of preliminary acceptance and a warranty period after the roadway is accepted, so that you get the same assurances that you would on another street constructed within your town. We negotiated this particular agreement over a course of time. This last draft is what I had proposed back to Cornerstone's attorneys. I am satisfied with it, but obviously the reason we're here is to get the board's approval and to answer any questions you may have. I would go on to further explain that after the roadway is completed, the settlement agreement provides that Cornerstone will grant an easement to the town of Winter Park over this section of roadway, and then will dedicate this roadway to the town of Fraser, subject to that easement. Winter Park was insistent on having an easement over these roadways so that nothing could happen that would affect their residents access in the future, which I don't think affects Fraser in any detrimental way. But there's also a provision in the settlement agreement whereby the town of Fraser and Winter Park entered into an intergovernmental agreement relating to the maintenance of these free roadways. Basically, again, saying that each entity is responsible for the roadways within their town limits primarily, but they can agree informally from time to time to share maintenance responsibilities. And the idea there is if one town is running a snowplow over one section of road, it may make sense to run it over the other party's section of roadway as well, and maybe trade off in that fashion. So that was signed at the same time as the settlement agreement, so that's in place. So basically, once we get this improvement agreement in place, construction is completed, and the dedication of the easement and the right-of-way is concluded, that part of the settlement will be finished. Now, there's a separate provision on Old Victory Road. We're not yet to that stage, if you will. That will be forthcoming in the future. I would also point out that the settlement agreement originally provided that this section of Grand Park Drive was to be completed by December 31, 2020. Cornerstone has claimed that force majeure prevented it from completing the roadway within that time. We really didn't argue with that because we don't have any skin in the game in terms of completion date. We just want to see it done. So we would stipulate in this agreement they would have until June 30th of this year, 2021, to complete construction and apply for preliminary acceptance. So, questions?
Is June enough time for that section? Because a lot of water does run down into that area. Is it going to be dried out enough to do all the, I don't know how far along that road is. I didn't drive up it.
Okay, Public Works.
Actually, that portion of road has already been paved. It was paved before winter
Sorry.
there. So a lot of the drainage improvements have been made, paving, water, sewer, et cetera. So we are pretty far along in that area.
So my only concerns with I'm really excited about this. This is a connection that's going to help both communities. But the Kings Crossing Extension easement area, is that in Winter Park or Fraser?
Primarily in Winter Park. There's a little piece of it that runs in across the border into the town of Fraser.
Yeah.
If you look at the map that was included, there's a dotted line that runs through there, and that's approximately, I believe, where the town boundary is.
It doesn't show up.
So you're
on-
talking about that red section of the
The
road?
green section, the green section.
Okay, gotcha.
So I was concerned a bit about the fill in that area. So you said that if there were a failure of that road and past the warranty period, which town would be responsible for it?
For the green section, that would be Winter Park.
A little bit of it, we are.
Well, it's within your boundaries, but
Yeah.
Winter Park is supposed to apply their standards and to inspect it and to accept it. But you're correct that if in the future, if there's a problem with it, it's technically within Fraser's boundaries.
No, Russell, so my concern was it was filled in the wintertime. I don't believe there was any testing done during that raising of that road. Was there?
During the construction of that piece of the road, town of Fraser staff was not involved. But town of Winter Park with their engineers, JVA, they were part of that.
Were they
But
okay?
the Cornerstone has been providing both the town of Fraser and the town of Winter Park testing results. So I'm not sure of the timing of those.
Yeah.
I wasn't really involved in that portion of it as much as I have been with Grand Park Drive.
I mean, I'm relatively confident it's good. I don't know enough to know it's not. I just know I was out there in the winter and watched it being filled. And
Mhm.
it's just was concerning. And it seems like maybe at the very worst, a little bit longer warranty period might cover that, but maybe it's not necessary. Have you looked far enough into the engineering records to have pretty good confidence in that? Or
I have not, no.
okay,
No, that would be some questions I would ask to the town of Winter Park, as well as their engineers who have been reviewing that portion of the roadway.
But we're partially responsible
Right.
for a little bit of that road though.
Yeah.
So,
At that time, we were directed to let Winter Park take the lead in that portion of the road.
and now we're asking the town taxpayers to be responsible after a year for part of this road. So
No, I
we
agree.
should look into it.
It's something that we definitely can going forward with the preliminary acceptance. We can definitely work with Winter Park to make sure.
Can you?
everything-
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
we will.
This doesn't back us into a corner that we
No.
could say we've got some concerns here. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Russ.
Any other questions from the board? As noted in the draft resolution, there is one minor change to be made in the draft agreement. That is change the email address for the town from Jeff Durbin's address to Annette's address. So
Okay.
Corner to Stoner did not have a problem with that.
Alrighty.
Okay.
And the red section, that's would you, that be termed the continuation of Old Victory Road?
Yeah, that's referred to as the Old Victory Road
Okay.
segment. And again,
Where it
there's a-
ties into Lionsgate. Is there a time frame on that being completed? And that doesn't really matter, I'm just curious.
right, it is a separate matter, but it is treated differently in that there's no specific date for completion, but they don't get the final payment until it is completed.
Okay.
And
Okay.
in the meantime, it is already constructed as a gravel surface, so it can be used for access.
Alright.
Any other comments, questions, motions?
Well,
I move to approve resolution 2021-03-01 Grand Park Drive Improvement Agreement.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Hooray, that's a big
Yeah.
deal. Took a long time to get this far.
Well.
A lot of people worked really hard on this.
Progress.
Hooray.
Good work, guys.
you're sticking around, right, Rob?
You want me to?
Okay, we are now at Economic Development Advisory Committee applications, and the documents are in the folder.
You want me to explain that, Mayor?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I was here during that earlier discussion back in February, but my understanding is that the board made these appointments earlier using what was referred to as a blind vote, where trustees indicated their preferences on a piece of paper, and by that process narrowed it down to 2 candidates. And I don't know if there was a motion to appoint those or not, but in any event, following that process, there was some objections from members of the public that process did not conform with the requirements of the Colorado Open Meetings Law. And there is a specific provision in the Open Meetings Law that prohibits action by secret ballot, except from some very narrow circumstances. So after reviewing the matter, we thought the best way to handle it would just be to bring it back to the board as kind of a square one and let you make the appointments over. You don't have to choose the same candidates. I think you have the ability to look at the applicants and make an independent decision who you want to appoint. And I think that can be done fairly simply by making a motion on each position. If you want to move that XYZ be appointed to one of the vacant positions, you may do so. And after that vote is taken, then same person or another trustee can make a similar motion for the second appointment. So I think it's a fairly simple matter. Unless you have any questions, I think the board can move forward in that fashion.
So if we had held on to those pieces of paper that showed our written choice, that wouldn't be enough because there has to be a name attached to the vote?
Right. I don't think that would solve the problem.
Okay, interesting.
So just for, I know this has been kind of the practice in the past, but there was a change in the law, not real recent, but back in 2012, where they put this specific provision in the open meetings law that says no secret ballots. So in the future, you need to
Be more prepared.
be more prepared.
So where we have the names listed and, yeah, it was the end of a long evening and we wanted to get it done. It's like, okay, everybody looked at the applicants and write down your favorite. Okay, so do we have that list of names available to us right now again?
In the packet.
I know, it was added, right? My internet's been down. So I didn't have access to it. And I'm trying to get into the town of Fraser website and my internet, so Ryan.
Do they all live in the town of Fraser?
Yes.
Yes.
So do we make
No.
5 motions? Autumn doesn't. Okay, that's 5, just 2.
You're looking to fill 2 seats.
Right, I know, but how do we do that?
We move to make a motion on the first position, who you want appointed. Take a vote on that. If it passes, they're appointed. Then somebody can make a motion on the second position to be appointed.
I'd like
So-
to start with one.
Go ahead.
I'd like to move that we appoint Jamie Jensen to the Economic Development Advisory Committee. I was excited about her. She's fairly short time resident here, but she's got a background in serving the city of Boulder. Not quite in the same role, but definitely working closely on affordable housing, mental health access, stable employment. Just seems like she's a fairly energetic person that would be a real asset to bring her farther into the town governance. So I'd like to move that we appoint Jamie Jensen to the Economic Development Committee.
Is there a second?
Well,
Okay. Motion fails.
I'd make another motion for Autumn Bishop if I could.
Okay.
I think Autumn Bishop's really energetic. I'm really excited about her business. She and I've had a couple conversations that were a little bit difficult about her sign, and she talked about it right away and worked with us on signs and trying to keep hers going there. And I think my only reservation with Autumn is she's awfully busy, but that's my reservation with all of us on this board. So, and she pledges she'd put the time into this to make it happen. So I'd like to move we put Autumn Bishop on the Economic Development Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Let's do a roll call.
Hold on, did we change our rules that you can have somebody on the EDAC that's outside the town limits?
Yeah, you can.
You can own a
own a
business.
business.
in town,
Yeah.
right?
Just double
Yeah.
check.
Yeah.
But we are
Yeah.
expanding it to
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, it's the Metro District guy boundaries for
Just don't
home.
want to have to do
No,
it 3
it's-
times.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Soul's Eye.
Barwick, aye.
Waldo, I.
Circumventic, aye.
Pernell Quinn, aye.
Andy Miller, aye.
Vandernail, aye. Motion carries. Is there any other? Need another motion?
I'd like to make a motion to have Kelsey Young on there. We voted her on before. She doesn't have experience, but when I first got on the planning commission,
It's a he.
He.
what's that?
He.
He. Okay, sorry, Kelsey. Ha, so yeah, I don't even know from him. But this is the local that doesn't know much, but likes it, has lived here a long time. I think it's good to have some balance. Attending here tonight, maybe just to find out if he gets on or not, but I like the idea that it's just kind of balances it out from people that are really knowledgeable and have missions to someone that's willing to learn and bring a different perspective on the growth of Fraser and from a local perspective.
Second.
Let's go ahead and roll call again.
Katie Souls. Yay,
Okay,
I made the motion.
I know, but you gotta,
Okay,
yeah,
Katie
aye or
Souls,
nay?
aye for Kelsey.
Barwick, aye.
Waldo, I.
Circumventic, no.
Pernell Quinn, aye.
I guess I vote no. I've already voted for 2, so.
well, yeah.
so I'm not
And
sure how
Vandernail,
that
aye.
works, but yeah.
So motion carries 5-2.
Yeah.
So those are our 2 new EDAC members.
Okay.
Okay, next is thanks, everybody. And I thanked everybody for applying last time. Having this much interest in a committee for the town of Fraser is definitely inspiring for sure.
Yeah.
We are now at Ordinance 480 Economic Development Advisory Committee residential requirements.
So I'll speak to this. At one of our previous meetings, it was asked why the requirements of the EDAC committee were to be a bona fide resident of the town of Fraser, and that we could expand that to the Fraser Metropolitan Recreation boundaries, along with the other eligibility requirements of the business part of it. This would also mirror what we have in our Public Arts Committee eligibility at the same time. So
I
this
think
would
I was
just
the one that
expand
brought
it.
this up. I think it's a great idea. There's a lot of
There's
experienced people in the valley. We might as well take advantage of everybody.
If I could make a comment of technical nature, I just noticed that the reference to the recreation district should be Fraser Valley Metropolitan Recreation District rather than just Fraser Recreation District.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't bring that up early. I just noticed it.
No worries. Thanks for catching that, Ron.
At first I was opposed to this, but then I thought of Meadow Ridge and Icebox and places that are really close to Fraser. So I'm in favor of it now.
Everybody who's anybody shops in Fraser, so.
Especially if they're really hungry.
We need a motion or further discussion or.
I gotta find the right one.
I'll make
I move to accept ordinance 480 eligibility of the EDAC members.
Is there a second?
I will second with Rod's noted change.
Perfect. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'm not trying to, are you? Is that-
I'm done if you're done.
Okay, yep, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rod.
You bet.
Drive safe home.
Safe out there.
It's pretty nice out today. isn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh,
Beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful. There's
Icy
a
spot.
flood in front of my house today.
Yeah.
Town board recruitment process.
So Mayor and Board, Antoinette and I will tag team this a little bit. You had directed us, I think about a month ago, to look at a process for replacement. At that time, we had discussed just briefly that there was the ability to have a special election or the ability to go through an appointment process. The town board directed staff to go and look at some examples, most recently what was done in Winter Park. So to that end, Antoinette's worked hard in engaging their clerk, getting that packet, working through that material, and establishing a proposed timeline that might meet the board's approval in working through this process. So Antoinette?
Yep. So in the packet, I did provide a kind of a timeline of what that looks like once we do receive that resignation. We would like to try to move this through, relatively quickly so that we don't have a vacancy for very long. We are looking at potentially filling that vacancy within hopefully a 3 to 4 week timeline once that resignation is tendered. So what we'll do is once the resignation is received, it will include the date that it takes effect, so we can have a little leeway there between the actual receiving of the resignation and then the date it actually occurs. And this will allow us to advertise, in multiple medias with that. And then what we'll do is when we advertise, we'd like to accept resumes and letters of interest from the public. And then we would set a deadline of when those must be accepted by. And then once that we meet that deadline, then we will, schedule a workshop. And if we get many resumes, we could take a workshop to either narrow them down and then set a time that we would do interviews outside of that. If it's only a few resumes, then we could potentially set up those interviews during that one workshop. So that depends on just how many resumes we receive as to if that's a 1 meeting or if it's a 2 meeting for the board. And then once we do the interviews, hopefully we could deliberate at that meeting that night, and we either choose a candidate that night. If there, we need a longer process to think about it, we could push that off to the next meeting to make a decision.
Thoughts,
Um,
feedbacks? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I
Ryan's
just wanted
timing.
to clarify why we're not doing an election is because this term is only through April of 2022, right?
Correct.
So it's such a short period of time. We didn't feel that for all the work to actually have an election, that would be worth it.
Right, because you have a resignation, you'll have to turn around and this, whoever fills this position will have to rerun at the next
Right.
regular
If they
town
want to
board
stay on, then
election.
they would have to run again.
Yes, ma'am.
They would have to run for
correct.
the position.
Well, they'll have to anyway.
Right, correct. Right.
Yes.
And there's a pretty high expense to a town election too, isn't there, Antoinette?
There, you know, it's,
Mr. Miller,
yeah. The expense for an election is somewhere around $5,000 for the actual cost of the election, and that does not include any staff time.
yeah, so we'll.
Yeah.
That's why we're interviewing.
I think this sounds great.
That sounds great.
Any points of clarification, any feedback you want to give staff, any adjustments? Otherwise, I think we have our marching orders in
So,
front of us.
I guess the one
Uh-huh.
point of clarification I'd like is,
Yes,
so resignation is provided in writing. This will include the date the resignation will take effect. If that resignation letter is written today, but the effective date is 2 months from now, are we still advertising essentially right away?
It will not be 2 months.
That's a long period of time.
So I think from staff's perspective, we'd like to get it out. So it's out there a couple of weeks at a minimum, maybe longer than that, but I think at a couple of weeks at a minimum from our perspective, but that's the board's direction of, if it's a
Yeah,
a 4-month notice or a 2-week notice, we'll see. But I think at a minimum, at least a couple of weeks would be a good idea.
So I guess let me ask a clarification question.
Sure.
So we're advertising for 3 or 4 weeks workshop. So if we line this up on a calendar
Correct.
for
Mhm.
like,
Right.
when you guys actually get to a decision point,
Uh-huh.
that would be my question, because that date dictates a date that I put into a resignation letter. And that's kind of what I'm waiting for before I give you guys formal notice. So I would hope that's kind of what comes out of tonight is we expect on April whatever to vote on my replacement. And I can line up my calendar accordingly in that letter.
So I think your meetings in April, if we're going to stick with your regular scheduled meetings, are the 7th and the 21st. So, it's the board's, prerogative and or
Okay, so we have you for 2 more meetings for sure?
so you,
Is that what you're saying? Maybe, if you don't take a vacation?
So what's our next is 17th,
right, correct. So 17th of March, right? Yes,
and
sir.
then after that,
And then the 7th
the
and then the
7th.
21st.
21st.
you have me for 2 more.
So 17th and the 7th. So we can back down from the 7th. What we'll do is we'll take this and we'll work backwards from assuming that the board would do the interviews on the 7th.
Right.
Is that what I understand? Okay. So Antoinette, why don't we just work the math backwards from there. So, okay.
So my effective date
Uh-huh.
should be after the 7th, but prior to the meeting after that.
So you can be in on the interviews?
Why? I can't vote, but I think I can be there. I don't, you guys told me, but
I don't know why you wouldn't be able to vote.
Seems like you could vote.
You should be
Yeah.
able to vote.
You're still.
It's just one
Yeah.
vote.
you're still-
Well-
And it's your replacement.
So, well, I
you
think
guys told me.
I think we'd want Rod to weigh in there. I'm
Okay.
not sure that's the case because I think you can't, until you literally have a vacancy, you can't appoint, because the vote will be to appoint someone to that position. So that position has to be vacant in order to make the appointment. Now, I would want to double check with Rob, but that would be my initial understanding of that. So, sitting through the interviews, I think is your discretion on that, but I think you'd want to then separate and have one set of meetings for that, and then a subsequent meeting where there literally is the vacancy and you appoint. You can do that first thing, but that would be my understanding of it. So
Okay.
it's kind of like having a little bit like having a town manager. It's kind of tough to appoint a town manager if there's not actually a vacancy to the town manager position. So not that you haven't been through.
We're gonna get clarification from Rod on the voting.
Right. So why don't we do this? Why don't we work on then an email that we'll send around as a part of a staff report and just kind of update on everybody where we're at on that. We'll get a little clarification on that.
So maybe with that
Why don't
workshop.
we talk after you talk to Rod? and
Okay,
I will draft my letter.
perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Is the board comfortable with that?
Yeah, and if Brian could be here for that, the workshop that's on the schedule.
Okay.
On here, there's two steps. There's a schedule a workshop meeting after the deadline to review received resumes and letters of interests. And then number 5 is schedule interviews with the chosen candidates, where we will deliberate. So
Let me nuance or
Yeah,
let
check
let
with
me have
Rob.
a subsequent conversation
Perfect.
and then we'll do the math and back in. And if
Oh.
you, and clearly I think there's an interest I'm hearing to have him a part of the interview process. So we'll make that, where you can screen the candidates, but then a decision's not made until there's actually a vacancy. So,
Right.
is that what I'm hearing?
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
I'd like
Thank
to
you,
add
Bob.
one thing to that. So I did look at Water Park's application. I will do an application and make sure that they're qualified to sit on the
Oh.
town board.
Thank you.
And also, if the board would like specific questions that they would like in the application for each applicant for consistency to ask, I think that would be valid if you guys have questions that we could put together for each applicant to ask in that application.
okay,
Perfect.
So what we can at least start with that template. So maybe when we put our memo together, we can just attach the draft and then you guys can weigh in and provide comments on what you'd like to see. But I think to her
Great.
point, it is good to have some uniformity in the questions that are asked. Obviously, you can
Absolutely.
ask questions on top of those and there may lead to another question, but at least there's a template of questions that we work through with your
Great.
permission.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Antoinette.
All set.
so be it. Thank you. Okay.
That's why you have the gold name tag.
That's right.
She's golden.
Yeah, solid gold.
Solid
gold, baby.
Okay.
Solid gold. Thank you.
Next is KFFR funding request, and I see Dennis and Steve are both on, so I don't know if there's more from there, but those are the two names I recognize.
Am I unmuted? This is Dennis Moynihan. Hi, I think Steve is here as an observer, but of course he's welcome to weigh in and to correct anything.
Can we turn it
Turn
up?
that up,
Hold on a
Let's
second.
cut 1 second, Dennis.
Dennis.
Can you hear me?
Let's try that. Try it
How's
again.
that? Is that better?
Yep,
Yes.
perfect.
I can-
Technology. Oh, yeah, this is Dennis Moynihan, and I said, I think Steve is here as an observer, but he's welcome to weigh in as needed and to correct any mistakes that I made. I'm just writing, I wrote to the board and I'm here tonight to appeal for some funding. I indicated a level of $20,000 for KFFR. This is a project that I launched in 2007, and we went on the air as a FM radio station in 2015. And we've been, I think, growing steadily and carefully, shepherding our resources and trying to do public service broadcasting. There have been, various challenges, and we're surmounting them one by one. It's a real learning experience for me. I know many of you have experience directly with the station in various capacities, and I want to thank you all. Those of you who I know who've been involved. I think the potential benefit to the region of a solid, sustainable, non-commercial broadcast institution is kind of incalculable. The pandemic has hit everyone hard, and we among them, KFFR. And that's the primary reason why I am seeking support. I'm coming to the town of Fraser first in this round of this appeal round, because I think I've noticed in the years of my involvement in the area, it started in the year 2000 when I first came to build a house, and have subsequently ended up spending a lot of time there. And thanks to Parnell, I now own the land that sits underneath the tower with his advice and consultation. But in that time, I've learned that Fraser is a forward-thinking town. I've seen that you've made investments in various public public-private partnerships, helped with grants to other private entities in the region. I think that if the town of Fraser were able to find some level of support for KFFR to bridge us out of this pandemic and to give us help give us a solid footing for some of the work before us, I and others on the team could leverage that indication, that level of support with other regional governments. I have done a significant amount of fundraising to get this project off the ground around the country, primarily, with contacts through my work in the nonprofit sector over the last 20 years. I have gone back repeatedly to several of these people, and I really want to demonstrate really solid local support for the project before I make another round of door knocking to solicit more donors from people who know me individually as someone who does good work, but who have no personal connection to the region, to the state. These are people from New York to Georgia to LA to Seattle. So in other words, I'm trying to shore up a demonstration of support locally for KFFR. We've had mixed results with the Grant Foundation, got a 0 grant this year, another one a few years back. There's part of that is their structure is only to fund projects. And, I think our project at KFFR is to do public service broadcasting 24/7 and to fill it out with special added activities when we have the capacity and there's a public request for it. But we really need essentially general operating funds in order to sustain this operation. Some of the challenges that we faced recently, our studio transmitter link is it's a wireless, basically Wi-Fi connection that goes about 6 miles from the studio to the tower site in Batson Tracks out in Tabernash. And there's been, I think there's a consensus that there's been an increase in the unrestricted wireless, unlicensed wireless traffic in Fraser. So our studio transmitter link has been failing recently, thanks to the community support that we've built. We were able to relocate it from the porch of one of you members of the town trustees. Thank you, Parnell, for those 4 or 5 years of hosting our hardware. But the relay point is now up at the historic Tubing Hill, and it was doing well for a number of days there. And just today, we're starting to have some hiccups in that. So this requires investment. We had the music library and the software playout system was on a $350 server that I bought a few years ago. That started failing. We've just upgraded it to a $2,600 rack-mounted server with a built-in network-attached storage system. Much more robust in a server room, away from the comings and goings and some of the problems that DJ traffic can cause. There's a number of advances we've made and investments. I do think any grant that the town of Fraser could make to us now would be very, very carefully shepherded and used wisely. And we have great plans for the future. And it's been a pretty hard winter. Thanks. Any questions you have, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions, board?
What do we have budgeted?
So,
Beth, your finance, you wanna?
so I don't think we have anything
What?
specifically budgeted for this, but we do have some money set aside for community projects. Beth, I'll let you speak to it. I don't want to misquote. Don't we have like 5,000 set aside somewhere for general grants and?
Yeah,
Okay.
$5,000 for grants and aids to agencies. And then the business enhancement program.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd say, up until COVID hit, I used to do either a Tuesday or Wednesday morning talk with Steve about what was going on at the town. And I was shocked at how many people actually listened to the radio station, because they would text and call me as I was leaving the radio station. Quite a few people do listen to it.
So if I remember right, we gave 8,830 last year.
Yep, 88,300.
Few years back.
1,803. I think it's a great amount. If the budget
Yes.
is 5,000, but we have those extra tax dollars. So none of that carried over from the previous year in terms of into this year's budget automatically.
For the 5,000?
Yeah,
It-
because if we made the 88,300 contribution last year.
It was
Um,
several years ago.
Yeah, it
wasn't
was
last
like
year.
2018, but
18. Time flies.
yeah,
Okay.
the 5,000 was budgeted last year and it's budgeted again at 5,000 for this year.
For this specific request,
No, just whatever
general request.
general, yeah.
I think public radio is definitely worth supporting in our community, and I would definitely back donating something, so.
Yeah, I would agree. I love having 88.3 part of the community, and I would like to see it grow. I think 20,000 is a huge ask. So we need to come up with a number that makes a little more sense.
Hey, Dennis, it's Ryan. I would, my suggestion would, you have a lot in this proposal in terms of payroll, equipment replacement costs, that kind of stuff. Now that you kind of know the budgetary number we're potentially working with, it might be good to refine this request a little bit for a specific purpose rather than just a general grant. So, you know, maybe ask for $2,400 for server replacement, for instance. Kind of refine it down to help us navigate a true amount, if that makes sense.
Sure. No, I'm very appreciative of whatever can be done, and I'll certainly do that. I mean, I would, if I had more time, you know, I might make a more impassioned plea about why a $20,000 figure is actually a very wise investment for a town the size of Fraser, given what the station will return in future years and decades. But I appreciate whatever you can do, and so thank you.
So we'll reach out and coordinate that response and get that back to the board once we have a few more specifics on that.
Yeah, I feel like a little more definitive request will help frame the conversation.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if we could look a little bit at the enhancement grant was mentioned, this doesn't fit classically within the enhancement grant program, but we could look to see if that,
We modified it to allow for COVID
yeah,
impacted, and I
Right.
mean, Dennis said right away that this
Yeah.
is impacted by COVID, so I think it might.
I have to say the Kffr devoted significant time in pursuit of CARES 2 funding. We have a current first draw request for the latest round of PPP. We seem to be perfectly tailored to avoid getting CARES 2 or any COVID funding. You know, Steve Skinner, who's on the call, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, like, you know, he spent a good part of last year without pay because we just simply didn't have it. And there was, you know, some opportunity for unemployment, but I think he missed most of that enhanced unemployment. So he has been, you know, volunteering over and above the call of duty in sustaining the station, you know, volunteering his, you know, decades of experience. So, you know, part of what I'm hoping to do is we've also, I should mention, we've been expanding the board of directors. And so I can say now we have a local majority woman board of directors that will be growing as well. The recruitment effort has been a little, you know, slowed down because of the pandemic and the difficulty of face-to-face meetings and chairlift meetings and the like. But I do hope to announce shortly a meeting that will be a very impressive woman majority board of directors that will be kind of I think a statement, a testament to the integrity and the quality of the populace in the region, and certainly Fraser will be represented on the board. So with that said, I'll just thank you for your time and look forward to the follow-up and giving you some specific details about what we're up to.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks.
Any other comments, questions? Motions? Okay,
No, I think it's like I said, I put a lot into it. I think it's a good thing to have, and it's a good station.
And we'll work to see about the business enhancement grant too. I'll get Sarah to maybe, if there's expenditures being made on their part, that we can figure out how those align and match and fit inside that program. We'll certainly be thoughtful and as creative as we can be with that.
Thank you.
And one way it fits in there too, just as a thought, I mean, there's really not much opportunity for local businesses to advertise up here other than the newspaper, which is a good alternative, obviously, but this is a pretty low cost way for local businesses to get immediate news out, immediate specials, immediate, and just knowledge in the community about what services and businesses we have. So they spend a lot of time on these are sponsorships for them too, but I imagine the sponsorships are fairly reasonable. So it's a good, reasonable way for people to get the word out about their businesses up here. So.
All right, thank you. And Sarah will take good care of us in the future.
great. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you all very much.
And thank you, Steve.
Stay safe.
Next is High Country Stampede Rodeo funding request.
Okay. I think Sarah's going to help me out with this.
This one's really easy. Do you guys have any interest in sponsoring the rodeo this summer? Attached was different levels of sponsorship from, $100 to $1,200. And I know we have in the past, but it hasn't been for quite a few years. It explained what the sponsorships include, including like free rodeo tickets.
Are they?
Be fun to have a
Do we have a
banner.
representative? Is there a representative on? Do we know?
No, they just sent it.
No. I mean, are they going to be even able to open up for?
That's a good question.
Well,
It is
Oh,
a good
yeah.
question.
Texas is open.
Oh,
There's a parallel
yeah,
there,
they can space people. It's open air.
You can't have like more than, I mean, there's COVID restrictions for like the amount of people that can, I mean, it's probably going to change.
The state of Texas just dropped all their COVID
We are
restrictions.
not Texas. We have a lot of Texas guests that come here that we all
They're
love,
coming.
but this is not the state of Texas.
Was
But
there a
I mean,
letter
are those
attached?
restrictions for outside
Yes.
too?
Yeah, some of them
We
are.
would have had, the
As
chamber would have had jazz festival and everything else.
I think it'd be fun to have a banner for $300.
What did we used to do,
Town of
Sarah?
Fraser.
What was the?
Beth, what was it was quite a few years ago that we
That was
did
like
that.
2007, 2008. It was a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
That was probably
Mhm.
prior to
That's
all
a long time.
of those stats.
But it's our rodeo. It's in our town.
It's what?
It's our rodeo. It's in our town, practically
Almost in our
unincorporated,
town.
but
We can annex in one day.
I'm fine with.
I'd like to do
I'd
a
like to-
banner for
yeah, make a
300
mo-
bucks.
make a motion.
All right.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we, I do a banner sponsorship for $300 for a High Country Stampede Rodeo.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We got to come up with the banner. All right, perfect. Yeah.
Next is open forum. So in the public, if you can raise your hand, we'll let you, Antoinette or Michael, who's running? Michael will unmute you and let you speak for the 3 minutes. So.
And again, the raise hand feature can be found if you hit participants. If you're attending via a smartphone or tablet, you can then see the raise hand option. You can hit the raise hand option. And we will call.
Not looking like anybody.
And then how about the phones? Do you have to Ask them individually.
The one is Catherine, and I don't know what maybe the 410, maybe unmute that one and see.
What's the cell phone?
So 410-279-8158. Would you like to provide a comment?
They're still muted.
I don't.
Is that the same deal as last time where they can't?
I don't know.
They don't have a microphone.
No,
maybe
it worked with Catherine.
Well,
Yeah,
Catherine was
yeah,
able to
Catherine,
do it.
Yeah.
She was
but
able to
it's-
unmute.
It
Yeah.
shows that it's muted.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's on their end.
They-
Okay,
yeah, they
it
have
doesn't,
issues.
we
Yeah.
don't, yeah, there doesn't look like there's any public comment. Let's move on to updates.
All right, the photo video contest. So I think Sarah was going to give us a quick update on how that went. Thanks, Sarah.
Sure, more fun stuff. I think Antoinette, do you have the contest winners ready to go? So this was held from November to, when was it? The beginning of February. We had about 50 people enter. All the people that won were locals. It was a popular vote, so we didn't have, like, these were not my choices. And I don't know if any of you saw the people that won. There's one really creative video. She won 3rd place. So we're just gonna show you guys what
Good.
happened.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So where would we have seen them if we were paying attention?
I shared some of it on Facebook.
Okay.
Just follow Fraser on Facebook. To see all of it. If you follow
I
Facebook.
refuse to go on Facebook.
You used to love Facebook.
I did used to love a lot of things until this past year. Ryan, Harwick, I bet you did too.
You duck and run for cover. That's a pretty one.
Hey, new technology.
I guess I didn't realize that we were doing.
This is why
Gotta
I
hit
love
play.
Fraser. Freaking
The
train.
audio- The audio can be kind of finicky coming through. I'm not sure. Right.
Come on, baby.
Look at the big brain on Mikey.
Where's that down? Nice.
Cool.
Love it.
That's great.
Did you say that's the first?
That was the first place winner.
First or third?
First. Very good.
And then the
If
second.
you were gonna see.
The second place winner was the photo of the golf ball. which I don't even-
Okay, that was the beginning. Don't fall with the divide. and the south of the road.
I can just cover it real quick.
That was
In
perfect.
first place, we have Leo Lego with that great video that we just saw. In second place, we have Cy Kennedy with this beautiful photo golf course backdrop. And then in third place, we have Christina Fez. And we will now watch that video.
All right. Hi, my
My name is Christina, and this is Little Tango, and this is why we love Fraser Winter Edition. This is Fraser. Come on today here. There's the places to get done your hair. You can ski here, enjoy a beer, and don't you worry, safe way to something all year. It's loved by dogs. Some hills are slogs, and on the corn in the valley, both the clogs. You can I skate? Check your long range. Maybe grab some shoes so you can say you ate. Grab your snowshoes. What kind you choose? Oh, and here's another place to get some boots. If I have feet, we'll make you read. If it's gorgeous mountain places that you see, there can be moose and coyotes. It's always great to get to see the trees caboose. From family fun to vineyard wine. And hey, would you look over there? It's Devil's Fun. You can let it rip or take a trip to check out all the real fun along the main strip. And our last tale, the river trail. You can planet Earth. Peace.
Yeah, all right. Good job. So who voted on these?
It was a popular vote.
Right.
On YouTube. Oh, not on YouTube, on Facebook.
So I had,
Very fun.
sorry, I had set up a contest platform. And so when people uploaded their videos, they could share it to Facebook or whoever and let them know that they were in this contest. So basically whoever has the most friends wins.
They're very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Could these be on the town website or?
That was the reason I held the contest, was to get some user generated
Yeah.
content. So that tourism website, I'm going to use a lot of the photos that were entered and the
Nice.
videos too.
Yeah, nice.
So if people go to YouTube and they hit on Fraser, Town of Fraser, can we pull that up?
Yes, that one is on there, I believe.
video?
Mhm.
Fun.
Mhm.
Cool.
About 50.
Wow.
50.
Wow. Is there some place where we can look at them all? On the,
Not right now. I took the website down.
Okay. been a while. Okay. Cool.
And then
Well,
just
thanks to contest
Just because I
participants.
was in the business, we need to be careful about using photos. Because I recognize some of those photos that may or may not have been.
Oh, so when you entered the contest, there was like a huge, rules list, and when you checked agree.
I know, I
It's
just
in there.
recognize photos. that
Okay.
I don't know is that they actually took.
Oh, okay. Oh, they
Yeah.
plagiarized, not
Yeah,
us.
so
Okay.
Just be careful. with-
Okay.
Yeah,
Keep us out of the hot seat.
yeah.
Cool.
I think, any other updates?
I do have. I have an update just on the deed restriction program,
Losing bed.
of
What?
where we're at. So we did make an offer to Kelsey Young, who has declined our offer because he does not meet the qualifications of the program.
Like
So
he doesn't live in town.
he doesn't meet the employment requirements,
Oh.
unfortunately.
Okay.
So, I am, as we're all learning, this is a learning curve for all of us. We are now trying to do all of our due diligence before it comes to you guys. So I apologize for tonight and for that one. So,
We got to vote again.
No. No, we're good.
so currently the town does not have any deed restrictions. So we'll continue to work towards it. If you want an update on all of them, I can give them to you, but I didn't want to give you that one.
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Antoinette. And then I think Russell had one item. Is that right? Yeah.
Uh-oh. Use
Jump,
the
jump,
microphone,
jump up
Russell.
and use the mic.
Step on up here, darling.
Oh, no, just a quick, yeah.
Okay.
Just a quick engagement and update on where we may be headed in some of the
Okay.
conversations.
Let's see here how to start this off. 721, the loop around the Byers Peak properties there. That is currently owned by the town and maintained by the county. So there is some confusion as far as, who would dictate, I guess, roadway conditions, roadway design, access points, et cetera, around that area. I think the thinking, the thought behind the agreement that was signed a few years ago, it basically said that if this was ever annexed into the town, it'd be ours. But in the case that it was not annexed, there's an option for it to be deeded back to the county or deeded to the county to alleviate any type of concerns there. So actually in some discussions just recently about who would do, as far as in regards to Buyers Peak, who would dictate access points, separation between intersections and what have you. There's a question on who would actually, I guess, be in charge of that. But looking at this and clearing up some, I guess, just some operational issues there, staff has been actually taking a look at the potential of deeding that to the county. And since this is in the county currently, and giving them the authority to design the road as they see fit for their development in the county there. So it's a thought. Wanted to run it by the board to see if it had some legs. If it did, it'd be something that staff would start talking to the county about.
Thanks. I think that we should bring this back.
Yeah, so let us do this. If it's,
I don't have a debate.
yeah, no. So if it's okay with the board, what we'll do is we'll start exploring those conversations and see if they even have traction on the other side with our partners. And if they do, then we'll come back and talk about pros and cons and what may or may not be the benefit there. So,
Yeah.
All right.
Just wanted to introduce the topic.
So if you hear the
Great.
comment being done, that's why
Okay.
it's being done. So, all right.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Russell. Thank you.
Anything about a public works facility?
Well, now that you brought that up, I do have a present. I have a PDF written on it.
That's all we have, Mayor and Board. Thank
Okay.
you. From staff's perspective.
Katie,
I move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Oh.